Hello, thanks for tuning in. Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about, the paradigm shift and in relation to how the lens we look through, the strength of lens that we look through when we're observing this reality and trying to figure out how to fix it. I'd like to rant about that. So yes, what lens are you looking through? So let me look at the paradigm we're in at the moment, okay, and then I will jump into the next paradigm and show you, in a simple way what it means to look at the world through a broader lens, a more complex lens, and the light that gives you. Let's look at the world, today, let's throw the entire global world into a petri dish, the human petri dish, and the environment is in the petri dish with us, part and parcel of. And if we measure the whole petri dish, we can see lots of individual acts of kindness, okay? And we can see individual acts coming together as collectives that form certain movements and revolutions and so on, and grassroots groups and all that. And there's so much positivity and brilliance, and it's beautiful, and there's so much energy, and it's so needed, and it's being channeled in great directions and in wrong directions and so on, in myriad directions, and it's fizzling out, and it's bubbling up, and it's fizzling out, and it's bubbling up. And everything is going on. It's just one big petri dish. Like I said, everything is mixing, everything is becoming. And there's a lot of anger in that petri dish, that human petri dish. And there's a lot of indignation. There's a lot of sadness. There's a lot of, lies being told in there, in the petri dish. There's a lot of deceit. There's a lot of people exploiting people. There's a lot of people in pain. There's a lot of people in deep, deep spiritual, metaphysical pain. Rich people are in pain, metaphysical pain. Poor people are in pain. Some people are in physical hunger, pain. Other people are hungry for friendships and hungry for relationships and hungry for intimacy. Okay, so we're impoverished. We're all impoverished by degree, and we're all rich by degree. Okay, there's a lot of rich people who are impoverished mentally and spiritually, and there's a lot of poor people who are wealthy when it comes to the spirit and the heart and friendships and community and so on. Okay, so we're one big amorphous, blob. Mixing and becoming. So yes, so in that paradigm, people are fighting back. Okay, there's a lot of injustice in the world. There's lots of great groups rising up, and Black Lives Matter and the feminist movements, and gay rights, and rights for children, and rights for all nationalities, rights for all cultures, rights for indigenous people, and so on, and recognition and historical recognition, and the wealth disparity. Look, we're fighting for everything, and it's fantastic. Okay, so but let's put the lens into how we're going about fighting, because we've been fighting racism, for as long as I can remember, and sexism and classism and all that. We're fighting all of these things. We're fighting hierarchies and corruption and so on, and it's all brilliant and it's all needed, but it's all out of focus, okay? Because we're never hitting the center of the board with any of our viewpoints. That's the reality of it, because it seems to be, it's all reactionary, okay? The feminists are reacting against a patriarchal system, the oppressive male system, and and they're reacting, and it's toxic and it's hateful, and it's men are this and men are that. And I know it's not as simple as that, okay? I know there's lots of complex debate going on, but it's still all reactionary, Like, it's all about grievances, it's all about hurt, it's all about almost like we have suffered the most, we scored the most points, And I don't mean that in any kind of way derogatory. I'm just trying to, this applies to all people, we suffered the worst genocide, black men suffered worse than white men, gay men suffered worse than white men, and so on. It's just this big battle of stats and suffering, and who suffered the most and who scored the most points. It kind of feels like that sometimes, okay? I'm not saying it is that, I'm just saying. So anyway, because I'm just trying to paint a big messy picture for you. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of, let's change the constitution, let's bring down corrupt governments, let's rule out the right wing, let's, rule them out of our nature, and so on. But, the truth is, it's just a big giant hamster wheel that's going nowhere, because it's out of focus, like I said, because none of it really fucking matters. The essence of what's going on, the substance matters, okay? But how we're going about shouting and screaming and pointing fingers and hating everybody and demanding change is just not going to cut it. And if you don't believe me, just check the last few millennia of historical human text and you'll know what I'm talking about. Here we are, after all our revolutions, after all our enlightened movements, and states of being, here we are in a big fucking cognitive clot, not choking and strangling, and our environment is dying around us. Check the petri dish. So anyway, we're all ranting and raving. But what we're not talking about, here's the difference in broadening the lens, okay? This is a different paradigm, okay? We're looking at the petri dish now. But I look through a systemic lens. All my work is about trying to relay a systemic lens to you, okay? I relay it through modes and so on, and through abstraction, a priori abstraction. But I'm always talking about, I'm at least trying to talk about the compass, this instrument in our head that is looking for north, south, east and west, okay? Now this needs to be This is integral to the debate. This is integral to moving away from where we are in this paradigm, because unless we're using this, unless we're addressing this compass, we're not fixing the engine of self. Okay, so we will remain headless chickens on the hamster wheel, no matter how well intended we are. Okay, no matter how righteous we are, and righteously so, no matter how righteous we are about, you know, all the isms needing to be ruled out of our nature. Okay, all we're doing is shouting and complaining and expressing our grievances. Okay, but it never stops. It's endless. It's repetitive. It's going around and round, the same iteration, repeating and going nowhere, because the lens itself is not being addressed. Because, you know, forget the fact that we're black and white and we're male and female, or we're gay and straight. Forget all of that, or we're different nations. We all have a single compass within, and we need to ground ourselves in a single foundation so we can know what we're standing up in. Okay, this is of utmost importance. If we want to talk about our species, we have to understand what we're standing up on. What are we standing on when we say our species? So we have to abstract and nail ourselves down to something so we can begin talking. And when we nail ourselves down, we all have a mind, a ghostly mind, okay? We all have a set of, you know, we all have apparatus within that allows us to think and to square our minds up around this reality, because we all have a systemic compass within. So I want to address us in relation to the systemic compass, and here's why. It's the anywhere you look, all the corruption we have in the petri dish today, the human petri dish, okay, and its environment, all the macro corruption, break it all down to micro, you know, actions, all comes from a mindset that is not utilizing this compass in the correct manner. Okay, the capitalist system, adding is not the bedrock of capitalism. Okay, capitalism is not utilizing the mode of adding, of addition, that is within all in the correct manner. It's not utilizing it for its full potential, because it doesn't know how to add up child and rainforest and clean air. Okay, it only adds up the pennies of a false hat and so on. So it's not actually, each individual is not implying just the simple notion of adding. Slavery wasn't about adding. The class system is not about adding, and therefore also absent was evaluation. The capitalist monster does not know how to evaluate the sovereignty of each individual and hold them up on high. Okay, it exploits, it utilizes them to shine shoes and clean shit off the master's floor and so on. Okay, it doesn't understand efficacy. Okay, it doesn't understand the efficacy of the rainforest. Okay, it doesn't understand efficacy. It doesn't understand its own modes, its own compass. So if you look at racism, that's not about adding. That's not about evaluation. If you're a racist, you haven't evaluated the sovereignty of another in the correct manner. You haven't added it up in the correct manner. You haven't found composure in the correct composition, therefore configuration of things. You haven't found symmetry, the geometry of the other person, and therefore self, and so on. Point being is the compass was absent. You take it back to any point of history, World War II, the compass itself, you know, the Nazis could evaluate certain aspects of reality. They could evaluate, they were using an adding, but they couldn't utilize them for their full potential because they couldn't add up reality in the correct manner, hence the Holocaust, hence war, hence corruption, hierarchy, so on and so on. Look at the class system, upstairs, downstairs, okay? They were not adding up reality in the correct manner. They didn't have the understanding of mind to do so, okay? They were little primitives lost in a tiny old paradigm, and so on, doing their best given the circumstances of evolution, okay? Given the fact that we came out of fish into ape into half-developed man, they were doing their best given those circumstances. Add them up. So yes, so anyway, that's why I discuss the mind, okay? I'm not interested in anymore about the stats and the pain and the suffering. My heart is with all of it, but I just don't want to discuss it anymore. It's fucking boring me. It's boring the fuck out of me and me if nobody else. I want to move away from it. I want to actually fix our species, okay? I want to actually fix it. So to fix it, you have to open up the bonnet of self and get into its engine, okay? So our debates need to move from this old paradigm and go, we have to ask yourself, do you actually want to fix it? Do you actually, if you do, you have to come to terms with what we are internally. We have to ground ourselves in one fixed structure and move forward on the back of that. And right now, that structure is the compass, okay? We've come up out of the dark. We don't know what the compass is or how it works. So that's the next step before we take any bigger steps into the existential void and figure out what the fuck we are in relation to God and the universe and so on. Right now, we just got to fix our place in this garden. So yes, so check Rome, any dynasty in China, just check any empire throughout history. The compass itself was not being utilized in the correct manner. Okay, let me just talk about, you can swing your arms about, okay? You can swing your arms and legs about, and that in its own way is kung fu, but it's crap kung fu, okay? But that's kung fu, isn't it? And all kung fu a master will do is bring you into alignment with your body and its strengths and its, it's how fluent it can be, and its agility and so on, and it brings it all into balance over a period of time, and then you use the so this waving around suddenly becomes fluent and directed and so on. So my point being is the mind, it's almost like throughout history we're using the modes, just like we can sort of wave the body around for bad kung fu. We were using the modes in a kind of half-assed way too. It was like bad kung fu of the mind, you know, we can all kind of half evaluate and half add and half navigate, okay? So, but we haven't kicked this superpower into play in the full way. You know, we haven't realized and optimized its full potential yet. Hence the historical mess we've been in to date. Okay, so anyway, so that's a broader lens, okay? That's a broader lens, all right? That is looking at the compass within all, and it's in everybody, and it's not functioning, okay? It's malfunctioning. That's why we're a dysfunctional head. That's why we're headless chickens. We're all doing our best given the circumstances of evolution, okay? But we are all headless chickens because we don't have a full ontological path to walk along and so on. Anyway, sooner or later, people were going to turn up at the table and bring it in a new way, and, you know, I am one of them. You know, think what you will. So yes, anyway, I hope that's made a little sense, you know, opened up a little bit more light into your head so you can see our way out, help you see our way out of this mess that we're in. And we do have the potential, we do have the superpower, you know, the modes are superpowers, you know, the fact you can add is a superpower, you know, the fact you can evaluate the universe, that's a superpower, okay? So we have to ignite the potential of this superpower within us. And when we're ready for that, and when we're ready to seat ourselves in that, realize that, okay, we will move forward with wings beneath all of us. Peace and love and logic.